Jordan Staal has been extended, and people are going crazy about the term before the contract is even out. Pesce looks like his extension is getting close, and my boy Tony DeAngelo might be coming back, and I'm really excited about that. Okay, so there's been a lot of news today. Jordo got his contract extension signed, and everybody lost their minds when they saw the term. So there's something that we have to look at here, and I won't go into a huge amount of detail about this. Now it's kind of given me an idea to make a separate video to take a really strong look at the 35-plus contracts. The 35-plus clause in the CBA does not apply to Jordo. So Jordo is currently 34, and he turns 35 on the 10th of September this year. So here, what we have is, let me pull it back up and making sure I got myself as right as humanly possible here. Okay, so a contract designated, let's see here. The contract is 35 or older as of June 30th prior to the year of the effective contracts. So, yeah. So Jordo's not on a 35-plus contract, so we don't even have to worry about that particular nuance of it. So when I saw a $2.9 million average annual value in a 4-year deal, I was like, okay, that wasn't the deal I expected. As I elaborated on one of my other videos, I was expecting just like a $1.5 million 1 year type of, let me give this one more go deal. 3 with this type of term, especially if it ends up being buyout friendly and it's not a 35-plus contract, is actually a pretty good deal. And when I say buyout friendly, I mean more so in regards to him retiring, because I don't know if that money comes completely off the books or if it would just be like a regular buyout. And I'm going to double check on this. This is just something off the top of my head here from everything that I've been reading. But like I said, I want to see the details of the contract before I really analyze it. At first glance, I understand why someone's concerned about the term, but there's probably, I think that money comes completely off the books if he retires prior to, and it doesn't have all the stipulations that a 35-plus contract does. So if that's the case, this is a good deal. So everyone is freaking out about the term, and, this is the exact opposite of what a lot of people say about the current Hurricanes front office. They're always freaked out about the fact that they won't pay players, that they won't hand out term and all this other type of stuff. This front office established a standard pretty early on that they did have a propensity to trade players if they were having a hard time signing them. Lindholm and Hannafin being an example, they were both restricted free agents when that deal was made, and that was the first big trade that this front office made. The Kruger for Martinook trade looked just kind of like a, hey, let's get a small upgrade in the bottom 6, and that ended up working out spectacularly. That was the very first trade they made, and that was during the playoffs in 2018, the last time that the Hurricanes didn't make it. It was kind of the same deal with Jake Bean, but I was totally okay with that trade. I didn't really see him fitting long-term in Carolina, as well as Alex Nedeljkovic. The current front office would not have made this deal, I don't think, unless they had some sort of way of making sure that this contract wouldn't be detrimental to the cap long-term. So, first off, if he goes on LTIR, then it becomes completely irrelevant, but Jordo's a tank. I don't really see him as being someone who's going to get hurt even at his age. Cap Friendly hadn't updated yet because I would like to do a buyout calculation on it once his contract's in there. I'll take a look at it and everything. I could do that myself, and I'm afraid I'd mess up the math on it and everything. So we'll see how that works out. So in additional news, Pierre LeBrun, and I found out here by way of Alex here, Alex Ohani has got some really good stuff on Twitter. I highly recommend subscribing to him, or following him, I should say. The Pesce extension looks like it's getting close, so here's something that I want to make abundantly clear. Just because it looks like the Hurricanes are bringing Tony DeAngelo back, and that does not mean that the contract negotiations with Pesce are stalling. No pun intended. These two players, yes, they're both right-handed defensemen, but they fill completely different roles. There's a very low, and I would say pretty much impossible, chance that Gostisbehere stays. So you have to bring in somebody else that can quarterback the power play and be the bottom pair, more offensively minded puck-moving defenseman. That's why they would be looking at him. And apparently a prospect's going to go back the other way. I have no idea who that would be. This kind of came out of left field today. I didn't think that. I knew the Hurricanes had to do a little bit in the trade and free agency department for the sake of making sure the blue line stays pretty well bolstered. But I would say that this is more indicative of Gostisbehere definitively leaving. It's unlikely that Shea is leaving at some point, even if it's not this season, but if the Hurricanes basically treat him like an own rental and eventually maybe you get Nikishin here, Morrow could sign at the end of his collegiate season next season since he's going back to school for the next season. There's a possibility with that as well. Tony's not going to be on the top pair with Slavin again because Burnsy's here, and there's absolutely nothing that indicates that Burnsy is going to get moved. Carolina's been lucky enough to be able to have 3 left and 3 right, but it's nice to have that, and Carolina's had that luxury for a long time to have such good defensive depth that you literally have 3 right-handed shots and 3 left-handed shots almost every single game. For a few times this season, and I'm going to see if I can go back and find which game so I can actually look at it, there were a few games where Jalen Chatfield, despite being a right-handed defenseman, played on the left and did a pretty good job. So in a situation where he's paired up with Tony DeAngelo, you're looking at Jalen Chatfield being the safety valve of that pair and letting Tony DeAngelo join the rush and do the offensive stuff and everything like that. For all the grief people wanted to give Tony DeAngelo for his defensive shortcomings and everything like that, one, a lot of those were nullified by default with him being paired with Jacob Slavin. He won't have that luxury this time. I doubt he sees any penalty killing time unless there's injuries or one of the main penalty killers is in the box. So by default, his time on ice, 5-on-5, is definitely going to go down, so his defensive miscues that he does have are going to be far less consequential. So, and I know that a lot of people were down on Tony because of his defensive woes and everything. He's not going to be utilized in a top 4 role in Carolina this time around, I don't think. And to be totally fair, I think that him being with Slavin helped, but I also think that if anybody can coach a guy and make him better defensively on the blue line, it's Tim Gleason. Jalen Chatfield will allow for him to have similar circumstances and have a similar dynamic where he's not going to get burned nearly as bad, and he's going to have a great guy there on the other side to cover him. So I'll put a graphic up here on the screen just so you guys can see what I'm talking about here about how exactly that, Tony DeAngelo would probably fit in the lineup. Additionally, he's going to definitely be on PP2. If I just did the quick trade here on Cap Friendly, I didn't pencil in who the prospect that might be going the other way is, and I also didn't pencil in where it says that Philadelphia would be retaining 50% of Tony DeAngelo's salary. So the math here is pretty easy, unlike that video that I'll admit I kind of struggled with the other day where I was talking about Nick Jensen and Brett Pesce. The math here is actually pretty simple. So if the Flyers retain 50% salary, that's $2.5 million the Hurricanes would have to pay. And that's just over 3% of the total cap, so that's not a bad deal for a comparable player. So as far as this being a cost-effective move to round out the bottom pair, it's a good deal. Yes, ideally you do want to have 3 right-handed and 3 left-handed defensemen, but it's just not always going to happen. And let's just be real, we ain't got a whole lot of guys on this team that'll drop the gloves, and it doesn't seem like Brendamore's big on the fighting aspect of things anyway, but we definitely need some guys who are willing to do that, and Tony DeAngelo will throw. Okay, so, I'll be straight with you guys. I'm a big fan of Tony DeAngelo. I like how much sandpaper he has to his game. He's a great skater. He's a great puck mover. He's definitely going to be somebody who puts up a lot of points for you. He's a good power play quarterback. He's got his defensive problems. Just to summarize, this in no way indicates that things are going bad with Brett Pesce. I have a feeling, I would be very surprised if that deal's not done sometime before the draft, if not even sooner. And Jalen Chatfield is not a bottom pair defenseman on most teams. In the event that you do lose Pesce, which, like I said, unlikely, he can fill that role. I think there's a lot of variables here long term, but prior to the next season starting, basically the only thing that's going to have to be resolved between now and then is Shea. I like Brady Shea. I like him a lot. I even considered getting his sweater, but I just don't see him being able to fit long term with all the signings the Hurricanes have. And as deep as they are on the blue line, they need to focus on getting the forward group realigned a little bit here, and that's what it looks like they're doing, off getting Jordo on a pretty good deal. So that's going to be it for me tonight. I made a tweet, or a tweet reply, I should say, where I stated that I don't think most teams have the luxury of having 3 right-handed defensemen and 3 left-handed defensemen, and somebody disagreed with me. So now I'm curious actually to go look to see how many teams have 3 left-handed and 3 right-handed, because right-handed defensemen are a commodity for a reason, and having an abundance of them like we will have should this Tony DeAngelo trade come through, it's a good problem to have. There's actually several articles that I could probably reference about it, of which one of them I saw was like a MIT study or something like that about, having 3 right-handed defensemen and 3 left-handed defensemen is overvalued, which I don't believe that. Able to have that in the lineup night in and night out is difficult to do. Alrighty, that is it for me tonight. Y'all take care, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I will see you next time.